for the first 20 years or so, I was into Irish music and old time music. I was learning by notation too, and it was just almost by sheer accident that after a while, I noticed that I was trying to learn by listening to people, even if I slowed down to half speed.
Yeah.
What they were playing, say on a recording.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, Kevin, you wouldn't have gotten that last year or the year before. You would have missed that because your eyes are on the notation.
Yeah. Right. So that's what you would recommend. Once you get to a certain level, go ahead and just use your ear and just figure out things by ear.
Well, particularly, I think everybody needs to think about this, even though they don't, because they don't think about it. There are only certain things that you could do in Irish music.
Yeah.
It's not like classical music,
Yeah.
where, honest to God, you almost have to have the notation in front of you. Unless you're a piano player. If you play Chopin or Mozart or Brahms, nobody reads those anymore. They memorize them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't do it in an orchestra. You don't get the diminuendos. You can't keep all that in your head.
Yeah, and why do it? Because it's not worth it to spend all this time learning a piece that you're going to play a new piece, a few months later.
The next week.
So, yeah.
But in Irish music, you'll learn after a while that you've only got a play area of 2 octaves. You can only do certain things.
Yeah.
And if you do this, this, and this, and you think that doesn't come out well in the fiddle. That's why no fiddlers play that tune. It's in B flat. And there are just certain things that you can do on certain instruments that you can't do on others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, all Irish tunes are in the key of G or D. Some are in A, but yeah, G or D dominates.
Which is unfair for flute players and whistle players, because you can't go below the D. When you're fiddling down the G string.
Yeah.
We're sitting here.
Right. Yeah. What do you do? Do you play a note that's in the chord, or do you go just
précisement?
Okay, like a third or something above.
And I think musicians have learned that in Ireland long ago. When people say, "No, you're supposed to go down and hit the low A," and people say, "Nope, can't do it on the flute."
Yeah.
The tune was composed by a fiddle player, obviously.
Yeah.
Not by one of us.
Yeah.
So that's a way of adjusting. Sometimes, for instance, over here, even over here down the Gaelics area, when people play, they call it. Have you ever seen The Devil, Uncle Joe? Which is the same thing as MacLeod's reel.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, MacLeod's is always a G, for the most part. But a lot of musicians down in Gaelics, in the second part of the reel, they don't go up to the high A or whatever that is.
Is that the da 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 da?
Yep.
That melody there. So the da da da, the top one.
And I think maybe because sometimes whoever they learned the tune from, didn't hit that high note either.
Yeah.
Or maybe they tried to hit the high note and they thought, that sounds terrible. I'm going down a third, but still saying the chord.
Right.
And there's some Irish musicians who do the same way.
Yeah.
I tracked that tune for the first book I did, and I thought, okay, it sounds horrible on the whistle. It's about the highest note you can hit. Don't play it.
Right. Yeah, just do a chord note. So tell me a little bit about the books you've written. It was one called The Early Irish in Virginia?
Yeah, it came out maybe 10 years ago. It's sort of a survey of where Irish people settled all over Virginia, because we don't think about loads of people coming from Ireland to Virginia.
Yeah, it's mainly New York, Chicago, or the Appalachian Mountains, maybe, or I don't know. You know more than me.
Well, or even Maine. Chicago, the far west coast.
Yeah.
But we know from the documentary evidence that there were, I wouldn't say a ton, but at least several hundred Irish people who landed in Virginia in the mid-1600s. Now, they could have come for better work. They could have come because they were accused of stealing a loaf of bread by the English, or they could have had a number of other reasons. Maybe a husband trying to escape a wife, or vice versa. But we have all those names in print with odd spellings, because that was 1600s. People pretty much illiterate in Europe.
Yeah.
Only the ruling class could read and write.
Right.
So these people would say, well, no, my name isn't Humphrey. It's Umrah, and somebody would say,
Yeah.
but they got here and they sort of disappeared. They were in Virginia maybe 20 or 30 years, and they kind of disappeared. They either died, or they moved to the western part of the state, or they moved somewhere else. They didn't stay. But on the other hand, in Virginia, Forrest, I found to my big surprise that there are close to about 90 place names in Virginia that are named after towns in Ireland. Like there's a Dungannon, Virginia. There's Belfast, Virginia.
Yeah.
Belfast Mills, Virginia. There's Rorke's Gap. There's Lynchburg. All the Kinsale. All these places with obviously Irish names where Irish people went.
Yeah.
On 64 going to 64 going to Richmond. There was a place called Shannon or Shannon Hill.
Yeah, Shannon Hill. Yeah.
And these places, for the most part, people don't know much about who those Irish people were.
Did they seem to coincide when the Irish people came? Like it kind of fits. Like these place names started appearing in print when it was expected, or when you think the Irish people came.
Well, for most of the smaller, more obscure places like Rorke's Gap and Dungannon, the people who came there and gave those names to those places would have been from those places. They would have been from Dungannon in Ireland.
Back in Ireland, yeah.
You know, and they came and bought a few acres of land and either stayed there and propagated, or they moved out, or they died there, but the name stuck, or I think sometimes they get sort of homesick, and they would say, "I wish I were back home in Dungannon. This is too hard. They're Indians, they're wolves, they're Protestants."
And most ships left from Liverpool, so it's not far at all from Ireland. So it would have been just over the what body of water is that? Just over the river to get to Liverpool. So
and apparently more people in all the centuries sailed from Liverpool over here than from any Irish port. It was like half price.
Yeah, it was just the big place.
Because there were so many of them.
Yeah,
I think eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
So were there any musical artifacts or any musical history that you found out about and wrote about from these early Irish settlers in Virginia?
Pretty much scattered, because most of the documentation was either newspaper articles or people just by chance mentioning that this family of Irish people lived here. But I found, for instance, that there were some Irish musicians here in Charlottesville, which surprised me. There were two people named Dinsmore from County Antrim, and one of the Dinsmores played the fiddle. There was a man named John Nielsen, it's mentioned in my little green book, John Nielsen, who was very interesting, whom Jefferson hired to help build Monticello because he was an architect, and he played the fiddle. There was a man named O'Toole from County Wicklow who played the flute. And we know that from a letter from his wife to him.
Okay.
So that was about it as far as Irish musicians. But I went through some Richmond newspapers in the early, about 1810, 1820. I know it seems like 1,000 years ago. And there were two guys, whose names I can almost tell you right now, who played both the pipes and the fiddle. They were giving concerts in Richmond. So there must have been a considerable bunch of Irish folk in Richmond to have been able to book these traveling Irish musicians.
Right.
You know?
And probably Thomas Jefferson heard some sessions there, I would think, of the workmen. You know, there's probably a night or an evening that he heard, you know, some jigs and reels coming from the back of Monticello.
I think so. I think so. And besides, nobody's put this together yet except me. I'm the only one who accidentally stumbled across it. Jefferson was interested in Ireland. I made a list of 24 or 25, I forget, books about Irish culture that Jefferson had in his library.
Well, his ancestry was Welsh more, so not too far away. I mean, Celtic in the Celtic region.
Yeah, but I think he wasn't so much interested in that aspect of it as he was interested in the politics of it.
Okay.
For two reasons. Remember, the Brits almost hanged him at Monticello.
Yeah, right.
If he hadn't got on the horse and gotten out.
Yeah, Jack Jewett and get on the horse and
Yeah,
along.
the redcoats would have strung him up right there.
Yeah.
They weren't going to try him. They wanted to get it right there.
Oh yeah.
And also the Brits burned the White House.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some reflection of what Trump is doing, you know. So Jefferson had no tolerance. And Jefferson wrote a couple of letters, more than that, 5 or 6 letters, to various influential people that he knew, not just in Virginia, saying, look what the English have been doing over here. It's all we can do to chase them out of Virginia. And in one letter he says, look what he really despised what the English had done over the centuries.
Yeah. Did he see Cromwell, or was Cromwell
Cromwell's a lot earlier.
a lot earlier?
But
Still, the English domination of Ireland continued, and Jefferson read about and saw that in all of his life.
Well, that fiddle player named John Nielsen, whom he hired, was Nielsen had been part of the 1798 rebellion in Ireland, and Nielsen belonged to the United Irishmen, that revolutionary group, and he was banished. He had to come out of Ireland. He wasn't allowed to live in
Oh, so
Ireland.
you know the reason why he came, because of that political reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jefferson hired him. And Jefferson hired, there was another revolutionary, tons of revolutionaries in Ireland, who in 1803 staged a rebellion in Dublin. That was Robert Emmet.
Yeah.
And Emmet's nephew is the one after whom Emmet Street is named here,
Oh, okay.
because that nephew got hired by Thomas Jefferson to be on the first faculty of UVA.
Oh, wow.
A guy named John Patton Emmet.
And he was probably sympathetic to that cause, the Irish cause of rebellion against the English. So
And if you look at the books that Jefferson had in his library, and the historian here told me that Jefferson never bought a book that he didn't read.
right.
So all these 2 dozen books about Irish history were politically oriented. They were in how the Irish built poetry. Wrote poetry or built pottery.
Right.
It's about the laws they had to face, whom they executed.
Yeah.
So Jefferson,
He had an intense hatred for the English, didn't he, Jefferson?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.